The new moon in Libra on October 22nd is full of creative potential. This is really one of the most positive new moons we've had in quite a while, especially in terms of how tumultuous and volatile recent months have been, especially September, which featured a lunar eclipse in Pisces, followed by a solar eclipse in Virgo on September 21st that brought all sorts of levels of adversity and confusion into many people's lives. This new moon in Libra is launching us into a new lunar cycle that takes us out of this previous time of eclipses. But it's most of all positive for a very simple reason, and that's because it is a new moon in Libra. And Libra is the airy home of Venus. And the star of Aphrodite, Venus, is in Libra with the new moon. The star of Aphrodite is also visible as a morning star, heralding the rise of the sun. On the day of the new moon, you will see Venus outside if you get up before the sun rises on October 21st to see that brilliant white glow of Venus. With Venus in Libra, in her domicile, in her home, Venus can directly express herself. And even more importantly than Venus being in her home sign and Venus being visible, Venus is also not undergoing any difficult astrological aspects that would bring extra levels of hardship and adversity. And so Venus is in this amazing position during this new moon to help guide us forward out of this difficult eclipse season, out of this incredibly volatile collective time in which we can witness systemic structures falling apart all around us, all around the world, even though at the same time, various world governments are trying to grasp for even more amounts of extreme power and authority and control. And so this new moon in Libra is very beautiful for taking account of how things have been changing at such rapid speeds, especially if you yourself have been facing difficulty recently and adversity. This can be an incredible new moon to find your center, rebalance, reorder whatever has come out of order, wherever you have been facing disorder and chaos, however you've been shaken up and whatever you've had to face recently. It's probably also awakened new life within you, new potential creative directions that can emerge out of whatever types of challenges you've had to face. Maybe you've realized new things about yourself. Maybe you've realized how to reprioritize things in your life. And so one of the reasons why this new moon is so powerful and so positive is that direct expression of Venus with nothing really getting in her way that's going to cause extra hardship. This is a positive thing because Venus in astrology signifies life affirming growth, fertility, harmony, bringing things together, pleasurable experiences of the body. And in her home of Libra, we are also going to experience here pleasures of the mind. Libra is an intellectual sign. It's also a humanitarian sign concerned with humanity, concerned with justice. And so Venus in Libra can not only help us become aware of injustices in the greater collective world around us, but also perhaps most importantly within our personal realm of interpersonal relationships with others, really paying attention to those relational dynamics we have with others, what has been coming out of balance, where do things need to be adjusted to have more of an equal exchange, greater equity in terms of giving and receiving with others. Perhaps it's a need to get more in touch with what we need, express those needs to others. But also because this is Libra, which is a cardinal sign, this can just be a very powerful new moon for initiating new growth. And because we're talking about Venus, this can have a lot to do with creativity, with things that can bring increased pleasure and harmony and accord. Now, new moons always involve initiating and starting new things and setting new intentions, but because it is a new moon in a cardinal sign of Libra, that puts even more of an emphasis and support for initiating things, getting things moving. And so, with Venus in Libra, that's one element of why this is so powerful because she's in her home. She can really help us start up new creative directions, start restoring, rebalancing things that have come out of order. But at the same time, there's another key planet in another cardinal sign, and that is Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer and is forming a square aspect with the Libra new moon. In fact, the Libra new moon is separating, moving away from a square aspect with Jupiter. Square aspects create some tension and friction, but they can be very catalytic. They get things moving. They move us out of places that have been stuck and move us into motion. And Jupiter being in the 10th sign from Libra in Cancer means Jupiter is in a superior square to the Libra new moon, as well as Venus in Libra, which actually places this exalted Jupiter, who is lifted up in exalted essential dignity status, in a place of bonifying or increasing the beneficence of Venus, as well as this lunation. And so these are some of the reasons why this new moon in Libra is so positive and can be so supportive for helping us move out of whatever types of adversity we've been experiencing recently. This is a chart for the Libra new moon on October 21st, set for Washington, D.C. You can see here how Venus is in the same sign of the new moon, like I was just mentioning. You can see how Jupiter is in the 10th sign from Libra, forming a superior square to Venus and the lunation. What you can also see in this Scorpio rising chart for Washington, D.C., is that Mercury and Mars are together in Scorpio. A couple days before the new moon, there was a conjunction between Mercury and Mars in Scorpio. Among other things in world events, it actually went with a great internet outage and some big strife and conflict in a Mars way related to Mercury technology and communication devices around the world. And there's certainly going to be other strife and discord and litigation and verbal arguments going on and contention in different events, as well as personal events that we can connect with this combination of Mars and Mercury and Scorpio. But there's something much more important going on with this that I want to draw our attention to, and that's just how we can practically work with this combination of Mars and Mercury in Scorpio, especially because Mars and Mercury in Scorpio at the time of this Libra new moon are moving into flowing trine aspects with not only this exalted Jupiter in Cancer, but also with Saturn retrograde in Pisces. And in fact, there is a Grand Water Trine forming that is going to be incredibly active all of this next week, as well as will continue in different ways to shift, but remain important and active in November, as well as the first half of December. This flowing water trine brings a lot of additional support, especially in terms of imaginal intuition, envisioning things, really going deep within to your own inner life, your own internal landscape, to connect within to what are the things that are just truly important to you right now. What do you really want to fight for and create and actively go after in this Mars and Mercury Scorpio way in terms of long-term plans? What is this much larger picture of where you want your life to go in these years ahead out of this incredibly collective, volatile time period, using again that cardinal initiatory quality of this exalted Jupiter in Cancer to dream big with this Libra new moon, as well as working within the confines, the limitations, the forces of necessity that we have to deal with that are coming in to our awareness through Saturn in Pisces. But Saturn there in Pisces, as well as Mars with Mercury combining with Jupiter, I really love the combination because it is a free flowing quality. But Jupiter and Cancer combining with Venus and Libra, the benefic planets being so active at this time of this lunation is great in many ways, but there could be a tendency to be almost like too good and go to excess or become inflated or just seek pleasure, seek what you're considering to be the good in life in ways that lead you into hubris or overreaching or going beyond your means. And so Saturn combined with Mars, I think in this flowing trine could be helpful for staying within your means, staying within the restrictions of reality that you do need to have your bearings within, but within whatever structure of reality or whatever kind of boundaries you need to stay within, dreaming really big within those boundaries and even going beyond with that dreaming, opening yourself up to even larger visions, larger dreams than you've dared perhaps imagine possible, just letting your mind really go there. But at the same time, then scaling it back to what is actually achievable and able to work on with more shorter term goals in the meantime. There's been so much change that has come through in recent months as well as this past year. And for those of you that are cardinal sign people, if you're a Libra, an Aries, a Cancer, a Capricorn, if you have angles there or important planets in any of those signs, we had eclipses happen the last few years in 2023, 2024, and there was an eclipse earlier in March in Aries. So cardinal signs have been really shaken up by eclipses in recent years. We had Mars retrograde in Cancer, followed by Venus retrograde in Aries in the first half of this year. And then at the end of March, Neptune came into Aries. And at the end of May, Saturn came into Aries. And so the cardinal signs have been the seat and place of great volatility and great change. And so, whatever your relationship is in your chart or your life with these cardinal signs, this Libra new moon is this great moment and opportunity for restoration and rebalancing. And what's incredibly powerful about it is that Neptune is at 0 degrees and 1 minute of Aries at the time of this new moon. So Neptune is right at this powerful place of the Aries point. It's known as the world axis, this point of extreme manifestation with Uranus in range of a sextile at the very beginning of Gemini, and Pluto also pretty close to a sextile with Neptune in the beginning of Aquarius. This big configuration of Pluto and Aquarius, Neptune and Aries, Uranus and Gemini, it's going to be a huge part of the incredible change coming through in 2026. It was fundamental to the way 2025 has already been so volatile and already bringing in this really chaotic, uncertain forces of change in collective events, but it's also full of great creative potential. And so it's really interesting that Neptune is still barely in Aries, moving backwards in retrograde motion at this time of the Libra new moon. And so it's sort of like this final kind of check-in with this Libra new moon of how to respond to all the big changes that have happened in recent months. But what ends up being so crucial about this upcoming lunar cycle is that it is actually going to be marking the return of Neptune to Pisces, because the next day on October 22nd, the day after the new moon in Libra, Neptune will come back to Pisces. One of the things that's really powerful about Neptune returning to Pisces is the fact that Neptune then becomes part of this very powerful Grand Water Trine that I was just mentioning, really increasing the potential, especially in this first week following this new moon in Libra, to go into this deep well within of imagination and dream and really envision what you really truly want to create with your life. Neptune returning to Pisces is also going to return us to some of the themes and storylines we might have been experiencing over the long course of having Neptune in Pisces. Neptune first went into Pisces in 2011, came back out, went back in 2012, and will essentially be in Pisces just 3 more months from October 22nd until January 26th of 2026. So in our lifetimes, we just have the next 3 months, the rest of October, all of November, all of December, and most of January to experience that imaginal power of Neptune in Pisces. Not all human beings get to experience the transit of Neptune in Pisces. I'm definitely somebody that has been excited that we've all gotten to experience it. There's such a resonance between Neptune with Pisces that many astrologers in the 20th century started considering Neptune to be a ruler of Pisces. And there is this incredible ability of Neptune and Pisces to open us to the realm of dream, bring all sorts of blending of all sorts of artistic sources of inspiration together. It really increases compassion, empathy. It really can increase devotion to your ideals. There's a definite boundarylessness of Neptune in Pisces that is also really accessible, and we get greater access for that. And so these next 3 months are going to be very powerful for going back within, taking account of the way things have already been changing with this great thrust of Aries fiery motion that's come in with Neptune being in Aries in recent months, and thinking about again, what is this bigger, larger dream to focus on going forward. We don't really have to have all the details of that figured out right now. We can be forming plans and forming goals to help get us there. But because so much is changing in the world, there's so much uncertainty, we have to be aware of whatever those details, whatever those plans are they're going to need to be changed. We're going to need to stay flexibly aware of them. But really, taking in that imaginal power that Neptune and Pisces is offering. Now, there's going to be things about Neptune and Aries to get excited about. It's certainly much less of this imaginal, boundaryless placement for Neptune. Neptune and Aries is much more targeted, can move much quicker, can get really inflamed with inspiration and spirit and ideals and really shoot forward. It's going to heighten collective ideals, being much more about the heroic and people that can take action and get things going. Whatever you are dreaming right now about and envisioning for the future later on, when Neptune does come back to Aries on January 26th, where it's going to remain until 2038, it's going to help you go forward and make this happen. I think what could be really powerful right now in these next 3 months, this final time of having Neptune in Pisces, is to let yourself go within and sift through the different dreams and desires you may have and try to gain more clarity for what is truly the most important in this big picture way. And that's something that's going to really come out and be present as part of this new moon in Libra, because where we're going in 2026 is this very extremely powerful conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries on February 20th of 2026. Neptune is pretty close by here at 0 degrees of Aries at the time of the Libra New Moon. And so there's something about what's getting activated right now as we come into this Libra New Moon that can really tap us into these much larger movements of change that will be coming into effect next year. And so, with Neptune back in Pisces, what's pretty amazing is as the moon becomes visible and starts waxing in the crescent phase on Thursday, October 23rd, the moon in Scorpio will move across a conjunction with Mercury and Mars in Scorpio and come into this grand water trine with Jupiter in Cancer, as well as Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And then on the next day, on Friday, October 24th, Mercury in Scorpio will come into form an exact trine aspect with Jupiter in Cancer. And then the next day, Saturday, October 25th, Mercury will move from that exact trine with Jupiter in Cancer into an exact trine with Saturn in Pisces. And then a couple of days later, on Monday, October 27th, Mars in Scorpio will come in to form an exact trine with Jupiter in Cancer as Mercury is getting close to an exact trine with Neptune in Pisces, which will happen on Wednesday, October 29th, on a day in which we will have both an exact trine between Mercury and Scorpio with Neptune in Pisces, as well as Mars in Scorpio with Saturn in Pisces. And so this grand water trine becomes extreme in the week following this new moon in Libra. And so there's a really fascinating combination of Venus being in Libra and the new moon being in Libra, this air sign, with Uranus still in Gemini, with Pluto still in Aquarius. So there is a strong air element going on. The air element is all about ideas and intellectual concepts and our cosmology, our philosophy, humanitarian concerns, being able to imagine with our mind different possibilities, different potential, being able to communicate, express that, be able to bring different ideas and synthesize different influences together, create connections and community with others in our relationships. And then we're going to get this water trine, and the water trine is exact and so powerful between Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer, Mars and Mercury in Scorpio. And water is not the same as air, but the things that they do have in common is this ability to be open to ideas, open to influences, and mix and merge and synthesize things together. And whereas the air element will help us communicate and help us clarify some of these ideas, there's going to be the water element really asking us to go within and make space for this inner exploration of the imaginal realm within. Track your dreams, get in touch with those unconscious forces at work within you. See where that inner knowing and inner guidance is leading you. And again, like I said, envision, dream big, be willing to think about where you really want your life to go in the years ahead and just find ways to guide yourself there, noticing what you can do right now to help you move in that direction. And what is no longer aligned with this is maybe going to be the part with the Mars and the Saturn involved in this grand water trine that we realize these are some of the things that are going to need to be shed or released as we step into this more intensified presence with whatever this new vision is that we really want to be bringing into our life. There's a lot about this new moon in Libra to get excited about. And so I hope you find it very helpful for connecting you in with what you truly want to create, as well as getting your life back in order and back on track out of any type of volatility that might have come with those recent eclipses. And with this new moon and the new directions and movements coming with it, I will be teaching a new course beginning later this week on October 25th. This is going to be a course on Zodiacal releasing through Kepler College. It will be taking place on Saturdays at 10 a.m. in Pacific time until 12 p.m. in Pacific time. It's a 5-week course that will give you all you need to know to learn and begin practicing the technique of zodiacal releasing. If you're already familiar with zodiacal releasing, I've had many students in the past who are already familiar with and using it in their practice who gained a lot more depth and nuance and ability to use it more effectively through being in my course. I will put a link below the description of on this video so you can read more about the course and enroll. We already have a good amount of students signed up for this course, but there still are some slots left, and I would love to have you in the course. It's a really fascinating timing technique that puts your whole life story into this much deeper perspective. It can be really powerful, especially in terms of getting a sense of the timing and the maturation and development of not only your vocational calling, but also just a trajectory in a larger scale way of your life story. So it can help you situate your life story into various chapters, like your life story being like a big epic book, or like if your life story was a great televised drama, different seasons, different episodes of that life story. You can read more about it in a description below, and I would love to see you in this course. If you'd like to talk about the astrology that is going to be happening in the months ahead, as well as the year ahead, I would love to work with you on an astrology consultation. My books are open for November, and so I will put a link to my scheduler below so you can book an astrology consultation with me. This is a great time of year to take a look at the year ahead and how to work with the incredible change coming with the astrology of 2026. I will also put a link below to my Patreon community. I have 3 different levels there. On the lowest tier, the Alder branch, there are additional benefits. You get additional information I put there and share there, especially weekly videos. So one thing that I do very consistently that everyone on my Patreon gets access to is every week I put out a video about the astrology for the week ahead and what's going on with the moon each day. These are not videos that go on to YouTube. There is also 2 other tiers. Both of them feature monthly meetings and monthly classes, and you can read more about that in the link below. And if you have not already liked and subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do, because it really does help me out. I hope all of you experience the creative regeneration that Venus in Libra combined with Jupiter in Cancer and this Grand Water Trine can bring into your life. And I'll see you next time.